Hello, Will Yeoman, and welcome to another episode of the Pod Well Travelled. Today I'm joined by travel writers Mogens Johansson and Penny Thomas. Now, Penny, we'll start with you. We're going to talk to Mogens in a moment about Samoa, which is pretty exciting and somewhere we don't get to go to that often. But first of all, Penny, because you're freshly back from Singapore and a very exciting dining experience, let's hear from you first. How was the trip?
Yeah, it was really, really beautiful to get back to Singapore. The last time I was there was in April last year. It was a little bit different. We're all sort of wearing masks and everything.
Yeah.
And there weren't a lot of travellers at that time. But this time it was really busy. It felt like there was a few conferences on.
Wow,
there was people
that's
everywhere.
interesting.
And it was, humming again.
So noticeably different between just because of the obviously with all the restrictions lifted and everything. And
yeah, and it just felt like, I don't know, I feel like Singapore's quite an attractive place for people to visit at the moment, especially if you're from Australia or other sort of nearby countries. It's not too far. It feels quite safe, and there's actually quite a lot to do as well. I was just there from Thursday through to Sunday evening, so it was a quick trip, but yeah.
So primarily to check out the dining experience at Jan,
yes,
but a few other things around that.
Yeah, there were a few other things. I'll get to Jan in a moment,
yes,
I guess.
Of course.
But what I found quite interesting was I went to Sentosa for a day, and they actually had the giants there from Thomas Dambo. So they've got a few of the giants that we've got down in Mandurah at the moment.
The same, yeah, sure.
So I thought that was quite fascinating. And they do this little explorer trail, so you can go and have a look and try to find them. And there's one drinking a glass of wine on a beach, and it's all really cute as you would expect. So that was a bit of a surprise for me to see those. And they're actually extending their stay there because it's been so popular. So if anyone is there in the next sort of couple of months, it's worth checking out. And the other thing I thought was quite interesting was before I left, I spoke to Stephen just briefly, and I said I was catching up with a friend in Singapore whilst I was there, and she's Peranakan. So she was going to take me to eat some Peranakan food, and he said, you must go and check out the Peranakan Museum, which is in Singapore. And I looked it up and they were shut, but they were reopening after a 4-year restoration project on the 17th of February. So I quickly emailed them to see if I could come in and have like a quick sneak peek of the museum. And luckily they were able to. So I went there on a Saturday morning, and it was wonderful to see, I guess, the restoration of the building. They did sort of show me images as well of what it looked like previously, but the amount of items they're sort of exhibiting within the museum is incredible. And to just learn about the culture, and it's a real mix of or hybrid, I guess, of Chinese, Malay, Indian, Middle Eastern, and then sort of Western cultures all in one. But what I found quite surprising was I noticed my friend would spell Peranakan with a little sort of P, and I was going, why isn't it capitalized? Like, some people capitalize it, some people don't. So when I was at the museum, I asked them about that, and they said that that's actually one of the big questions they get when people do visit. And now with this new restoration, they really want to ask people that are visiting what they think of Peranakan culture and what it means to them, because some people think of it as a sort of key culture and theme, and some people think of it as like a lifestyle as well. So it's quite interesting to see what your perspective is as well.
Okay, so presumably the lifestyle angle will give you the lowercase p, and the identity and culture would be the uppercase p, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, and that was just something I wasn't expecting, but it was great to sort of learn and then go through the museum as well. On the bottom floor, you sort of get all the origins about the culture and all the different cultures, I guess, that are involved, and the heritage of Peranakans. And then the second floor is all homewares and different ceramics and everything, which are just really beautiful. And then on the top floor is fashion and style. And Stephen actually told me to look out for this one. It's like a tablecloth that's huge, but once you get really close, it's made from little beads. And it was really spectacular, and I saw that, and it's been displayed so well, and it just looks amazing once it's there. So I've got some photos, but hopefully I'll also get some more so you can see what it's like once the museum
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know that it's been restored, because I visited it many years ago when it clearly wasn't restored. So I'd be very interested to see what difference the restoration has made, because it is a fabulous, fabulous museum.
Yeah, and it seems, I think, that we've got a few more donations from different families as well throughout that time.
Yes.
So yeah, it was really interesting for me. And then I went out to dinner with my friend Chan and to speak about it with her as well, and what it means for her. So yeah, it was just a nice way to sort of tie everything together. But I guess Peranakan food is quite different to the type of food I was eating at Jaan, which is
tell us about
the main
Jaan.
reason I was there. So up the very top of the Swiss Hotel, the Sanford in Singapore, is a restaurant called Jaan, which has been there for multiple years. And the actual name Jaan means, I think, like a bowl for food and stuff in Cambodian.
Okay.
But the current chef there didn't actually come up with that name. That was, I think, 2 chefs have worked under that title. But it's just the name of the restaurant in the hotel. The chef there at the moment is a fellow called Kirk Westaway, and he's actually from Devon in the UK. And he's been there, I think, for around 6 years now in Singapore. But they've just restored the restaurant. Even though he's been at Jaan for a few years, he went through a big restoration, I think, during COVID, and they've redone the restaurant. So it opened or reopened in December. So I was there to check out the restored restaurant and taste all the wonderful food that he offers there, which is actually a modern British cuisine, which was really fascinating. We did the 5-course meal there, which starts at around $208 for a lunch, and then you can also add a wine pairing if you wish as well. But we got to speak to Chef Kirk at the very end of the meal, and it was fascinating to hear that when he first came over and I guess was working under the other chefs whilst he was sort of finding his feet and about to take over, he wanted to create something that was really special for Singaporeans as well, but because he's from Devon, he only wanted to do what he really knows, and that's British cuisine, I guess. And even though he's worked in France and other places all around the world, he found he wanted to really create a niche sort of product, and a lot of people were very apprehensive about that type of menu, and he said that he really had to prove himself, and there were nights that he was sleeping under the table at the restaurant just trying to perfect things, and you can tell he's a real perfectionist. And it has sort of shown. He's been awarded 2 Michelin stars for the restaurant, and it blew my expectations, I think, of what I probably thought British cuisine was to what he's been able to achieve there. So it's definitely worth, I think, if you're a foodie, it's well worth a visit. I was surprised by the guests there. I think they can seat around 35 people in the room, and most of them were the locals to the area. And he said that it's usually 80% locals that they'll get. So to me, I thought, wow, Singapore's got such a variety of food and different sorts of cuisines that I would be attracted to. I never would have really thought I'll go for British cuisine, but the locals actually must really appreciate the difference, I guess, that they can.
Well, I guess if you think about it, to them, it's probably exotic, because they can have all that other stuff, all year round, anytime they want. But suddenly, in the last few years, to have this British sort of cuisine come up must be just really exciting for them, I guess.
Yeah, and the menu's fantastic in the sense of the way that he sort of mapped it out. A lot of it has sort of elements of nostalgia within it. So you can be tasting something and the conversation just sort of organically starts to flow around the table because of the nostalgia people get and go, I remember tasting this when I was a child, or this reminds me of my grandma's garden, or all these different parts. So that was quite a nice, you can tell that a lot of thought has gone into it.
So what's what's an example of some of the dishes? Because I'm just thinking like, chips and mushy peas at the moment, as being classic British, pies or whatever.
Yeah. So one of my favourite dishes was like a goose mousse, little sort of pastry thing that we got maybe in the first sort of couple of meals, and that was something that even Chef Kirk sort of came out and explained at the end and said that that's one of his favourite things, because in a lot of pubs in the UK you'll get this type of like goose mousse and sort of cranberry or sort of chutney sort of dish, and he said it's really basic over there, but he wanted to do it in a way that it sort of blows your mind here, and it really did. And that was just something that was smooth and delicious, and I could eat 1,000 of them, I think. The other one that I really loved was the guinea fowl that he also does, and just a lot of the sauces as well that go with all the meals is incredible. The desserts were amazing, and also just the bread and the butter. The butter has flown in from Devon as well. He has all this thyme that he sort of puts with it, and the rye sort of bread that we ate was just delicious as well. So you couldn't fault anything for me. It was great. And it seems that a lot of people were enjoying themselves too. I think before he had a longer booking time, so you could book in quite easily, but now it's just, I think, 2 months in advance because of they just need to be able to sort of prepare and also make sure their bookings are good. But I think they used to do longer times you could book in sort of 3 or 4 months in advance, but they've cut that a bit shorter now.
And just for people who are listening, he might have certain dietary requirements. I mean, I guess it goes along with his perfectionism and his ability to focus very reasonably narrowly within that, because he doesn't really cater for different requirements outside of vegetarian. There is a vegetarian menu, but if you're looking for gluten-free or vegan or whatever, they're not really that sort of on board with that.
Yeah, he seems to be quite, I guess, particular with the ingredients and products that they're sourcing as well. So there is a few sort of boundaries that he doesn't sort of cross. I was saying before that I have a slight intolerance to egg, and one option on the menu was a hen's egg, which I guess is just an egg. But that dish came out spectacular for everyone else. I was given a substitute in that moment, but there's not a lot
generally
of movement.
They wouldn't do that for normal customers.
That one always will be substituted for some reason. That one is.
Interesting.
Yeah, but if you were lactose intolerant or anything like that, there's not much room to
go somewhere else. Okay, fair enough.
But the view up the very top there, it's on level 70. So I find it's actually one of the best views in Singapore for me, the Swiss Hotel there, because you do get to look out and see the Marina Bay Sands sort of building, which I find is just such a fascinating building. And when you line it up perfectly, the top of the building really looks like one of the cargo ships floating off in the distance. And then you've just got this sort of 180 view of the harbour there, and you could people watch for ages, and a lot of the venue's design has been built around the view as well. But because beforehand everyone wanted to sit right near the windows, Kirk was explaining that he's worked a lot with the designers to create the space that you actually want to sit further back a bit and be amongst it. And it's amazing how they've done that with the colours and the interior and everything's been really thought out and done it in that way that you feel like the seats in the centre of the venue are actually the better seats to have. So it's really smart how they've done that and tried to reinvent how a normal sort of high-end restaurant would function. So
wow, what an amazing trip. So we can expect to read all about it, look at some of your pictures in a future edition. We haven't planned this yet.
And we've got a Singapore guide coming up as well, which
we'll
be compiling. So there's lots to chat about Singapore for people that are interested in going.
So in the meantime, Mogens, we'll turn to you now, because you've got a feature this weekend.
Yep.
Poised, ready to go.
Ready to go, yeah.
And you're going to take us where?
To Samoa.
Somewhere completely different.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a place that was really sort of unexpected to me in several different ways. But first of all, we weren't supposed to arrive in Apia, the capital,
Western Samoa, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. We were supposed to go to Pago Pago, and there was a late change. So anyway, even more surprising because of that, because it happened at fairly short notice. There was an amazing welcome to us as we pulled alongside at the wharf there. A large group of singers, dancers, band and that sort of stuff were performing sort of traditional Samoan songs and so on, all dressed up. It was just a welcome like I've never experienced before coming on a cruise ship. So that in itself was pretty spectacular. And the city of Apia is a lovely place as well. It's fairly compact, so it's easy to sort of walk around and experience at your own pace, which is what I chose to do initially. Just so walking from the container terminal where we were berthed is only about 2 kilometres, I think, to the centre of town, so it's not very far, and you walk along this sort of promenade along the bay there. But one of the most sort of striking buildings that you notice as soon as you come into port is the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception, and it's from the outside it's a pretty striking looking building, but inside is just amazing.
Really?
I mean, you've seen the pictures, Will.
It's incredible.
There's definitely sort of unique Samoan influences with lots of woodwork. The whole ceiling is a work of art in itself, with a way that's sort of like parquetry style, just about.
Sure.
And with lots of unique, delicate details and that sort of stuff. So if you're ever in that neck of the woods, don't miss going inside, even if you're not really a churchy person. Getting inside will just blow your mind. The rest of the town is like, it didn't have the sort of feel that, it was particularly touristy. And, you get in some places where, there's lots of tourist shops and that sort of stuff. You didn't sort of get that feel there. It was, just an average
just
functioning
sort of
Pacific Island town, that's... charming in its own way, but and you discover some real sort of gems. There's a lovely farmers market there, which I visited, and also with they also sell sort of wood carvings and clothing and all that sort of stuff. So that's a great a great place to sort of explore, just to sort of chat to the locals. They're all really happy to sort of see you, and it had a lovely feel to it. Is perhaps it was just a place you sort of really can't help but falling in love with in a way, because it's sort of charming and not too touristy. We did take later in the day a little tour up to a place called Villa Velima. It was the home of the Scottish sort of author and poet Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote Treasure Island and the Tale of Jekyll and Hyde, I think it was as well. So he due to ill health, basically, in his life, he was searching for a place that was suitable for his medical conditions. He was a very heavy smoker, which I'm sure didn't contribute or contributed a lot to his health woes. But long story short, he basically built this really stately home up in the hills just behind Apia there, and it's a lovely place. It's like set out as a museum, and each room is as they would have lived in it. So there's his smoking room and his wife's room and his daughter's, his son's room, and so on. So it's a really sort of unique insight into his life in Samoa. But what was also interesting is that how the Samoan people sort of embraced him, as a white man arriving there, and he obviously deeply respected their culture and so on, which I'm sure contributed to that. But he is actually buried on a hill just up from his home there. So it was an interesting insight into his life at Samoa. The only thing I was, being on a cruise ship, you have one day there, so by the time you've explored the town and you've been out to Stevenson's home, there wasn't a lot of time to sort of shoot out, because there was a few really sort of spectacular natural attractions like waterfalls and beaches and that sort of stuff I would have loved to have seen, but there just wasn't enough time. If you are in Samoa, there's definitely a lot of different things to do. Obviously that you can explore the city, but there's also various museums and lots of natural attractions as well.
Amazing.
I believe you have some family connections to
Apia. My mother's Samoan was Samoan, and she was born in Apia, and her grandfather, so my great-grandfather, actually ran the hotel there, which was quite famous for a while, because not least because Robert Louis Stevenson stayed there, presumably while his house was being built. I don't know. And he mentions my great-grandfather in some of his letters as well. So it's kind of interesting. So well, I've never been there.
No, okay.
So look forward to going there sometime.
Yeah. No, it's certainly an interesting place. I really enjoyed my day there.
I'm glad you got the opportunity.
hope to go back there and experience it some more one day.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, as I say, in the meantime, people can read all about it in this Saturday's. Is it Saturday or Sunday? Saturday's West Australian, the travel section.
No, Sunday, isn't it?
It's in Sunday.
Sunday.
Okay, so it's in the Sunday Times travel section.
Yeah.
It's all one big,
You could pick up 2 copies. And
exactly. It's all worth reading. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Pod Well Travelled, and we'll
pleasure.
catch up with you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.